Well, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and we're trending toward a new year coming up here at the end of the week. So enjoy your time frame if you get an opportunity to get out on the water. And one of the areas that you can absolutely get to is right here in Mesquite Bay, shooting down toward the Cedar Bayou Flats, all the way down to Cedar Bayou, even onto the Matagorda side on that flat there. We've been fishing these edges. Again, water fluctuation has been a terrific thing for us. We've had lots of water that's been in here. We've had it drop out on us, so it gives you lots of different opportunities to fish different areas, fish it differently in the same area. And up here on the flat at the Cedar Bayou Flat, it's been very good to us so far this year, and it continues to be pretty solid for the most part. Uh, you got great grass, good amount of mud, just perfect temperature-wise as far as what your work structure-wise has been there. Of course, our temperatures, ambient-wise, have been very mild so far this year. We've had a few cold spots here and there, but so far as we've gotten past into Christmas and here over this upcoming week, it's gotten a little bit cooler, but for the most part, it's very doable, very easy to deal with. So you're not having to just bundle up and just have to fight bitter cold. But that said, that can always change, so it's always good to make sure that you're paying attention to what your weather systems are doing, especially during this time frame in the year. But we've been working the edge out here when we've had those lower tides. We've getting out on that little bit deeper edge to see if we've had locate some fish hanging out there off a little bit deeper water over submerged grass. Corkies, originals, my favorite to throw of those. Any particular colors, you can line up and throw whatever you want really, unless you just got really super dirty water. But that has not been the case because our winds have been pretty mild for the most part, so it's been pretty protected and it's been pretty good. The floaters and sinkers in the Corkies have done well. The original has done well. The Soft Dine XL and the original, those are all very productive for us. Continue to throw the Down South Supermodel, the original size, the burner shad, and all those particular things. As we've getting up there close to the shoreline, we've even pulled the double D's and the topwater baits out. So there's been a lot of different baits we've had a lot of success with, pretty consistent success with. So if you have a bunch of different things that are in your box, because we're into the transition days toward the end of that 10-day time frame, and we're fixing to get into the big moon time frame with the full moon that's coming. We'll be here not too far away. So the one thing that you really want to do is kind of start transitioning toward that smaller body frame size as far as the profile goes. This is where the Soft Dime, the double D, probably your burner shads will be very good in this. The knock and tail, the smaller version in the 3 1/4 to 4 inch would be great. Any of that smaller profile stuff. 16th ounce jig head's still been money for us. We're not moving off of those. Been that way from the get go. So unless you're just going to get to a area that's got a gut or an edge, like if you get into the Cedar Bayou cut that goes all the way out to the Gulf, that's a deeper channel that runs through that. So you may want to put an 1/8 ounce on if you want to patrol that edge and see if you can find some fish hanging out there deeper. But the one thing I said, the water temps have been pretty mild for us. They've been mid to upper 60s, which is very comfortable for those fish. So you're not having to really get down into the depths of the water early in the mornings like you would be if we were touching mid to upper 50s. But again, 16 ounce has been very good for us. It's worked. We've been able to work lots of different water columns with that, anywhere from waist deep to knee deep water has been very good with that, in multiple different flavors. Nothing in particular. One thing, the normal ones we've been throwing: White Ice, Bone Diamond, Twisted Tea, Big Papa, Magic Grass, Firecracker, Mud Minnow. It just kind of depends on what that. Of course, also the another one that's been good for us too has been the Mirror Little Johns. That would be a good one to be also have in your arsenal during that full moon period. The Provoker, we've been throwing a few Provokers along the way in multiple different flavors, so those have been very well for us as well. Like I say, there's lots of different baits that we've been using. There's not one particular bait that has just been hotter than the other. There's just been a multiple of baits that have caught fish with, so you have a bunch of choices that you can use. We work in the edge here on the point and get over on the Matagorda side and work all that little cove back there all the way back down toward the Texas Parks and Wildlife area that's back down this way to that deeper gut that's in it, all the way up into Bray Cove if you so choose. Hadn't fished a lot into Bray, but we've been primarily focusing on Cedar Flats and Matagorda Flats, and again, it's been very productive for us consistently the last few months. So Again, just make sure that you're just kind of working these areas well. Locate your bait, and that's not been an issue for us. Like I say, it's been a little bit more scarce than it has been in the last few months, but there's still some bait that's working in the area, which really bodes well for us throwing those artificial baits. Over here around the ranch house, Allen's Bight area, all this area up here and down this shoreline as you head all the way back up into Allen's Bight, you have some great opportunities here. Again, with our milder temperatures that we've had, pretty consistent now over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, our water temps have not fluctuated tremendously very much. They're hanging in that mid to upper 60s, which is very comfortable for those fish to be in, very comfortable to wade in as well. You don't have to layer up nearly as much, but when you get into these areas like this, it's giving you opportunities that typically this time of year, with the El Nino fronts that we've had coming through, that's all Pacific fronts, so therefore our winter has been more mild this year. It's been a little bit more moist, but it's been mild at the same time, so it's been helpful from that standpoint. So you can get into areas and fish these areas typically when you probably start shutting down some of them, probably back in late September, early October, and start migrating away from. It's extended out now into December until you really get into a cold front that drives that water temperature down and pushes these fish off. So it's like almost still kind of hanging into a late fall pattern. It's still into effect, if you will, and working these types of areas. So they're still in play. You got some scattered shell opportunities around this, so that's great structure. You got mud that's around that. You got scattered grass that's around that. If you fish this area very much, you know this, and you've got these areas back in here, the little back lakes that you can wade back up into those. It gets a little mushy in some spots, but it's not terrible. It's very, very manageable, depending on your skill set and where you're at physically. But yeah, these are great opportunities that are back in this. But again, some of these areas are very tide predicated, so you make sure that you're really paying attention to that when you work these particular areas like that. But if you fish the Allen's area, you've got a nice little edge out here that's got grass. Then you can shoot back in some of these back lakes. If you want to get your boat back into here and then drop into these areas and wade this big back lake that's back in this area here. So you got multiple opportunities down these edges here. Again, duck season's in full bloom, so you've got some hunters that are back in these areas, so make sure you just pay attention to that and kind of be aware. But there's plenty of opportunity for you to fish in these areas. Again, main things that we've been throwing, same thing back in this as far as our baits goes. We've been hanging with the Miradyne, the Soft Dyne, the Soft Dyne XL. We've been throwing lots of our plastic as usual, the Down South, Knock and Tail, Mirror Lures, Little Johns, those right there. Every once in a while we'll sprinkle in the Marker 54, the jerk shrimp, just to see if we still get some opportunities, and we do. And again, I think I mentioned last week, flounder in seasons, you can start to harvest those again, so you possibly get some opportunities at catching flounder. So it's always a great bonus fish when you're working some of these areas here. Primarily, we've catching some solid trout, some solid redfish, in that lower slot area, and that's been very enjoyable and a lot of fun to be able to locate and find these fish back in these areas. Other thing, double D's is a very good bait to throw back in these because you got enough water that you can really control that thing. So it's an ascension bait like that, so it's floating to the top on you, but you can really keep that thing down below if you got a little bit of floating grass, which we still do because there are water temps. It's still, some of that grass is still releasing, and of course with the water or the tides that are coming in, when that water starts to flow back out of there, it's going to pull some grass off the shorelines in these areas. But again, just continue to work your majors and minors. Like I say, we got big moon that's coming, so there's going to be some really, if you can target when that big moon is starting to set, maybe a couple hours prior to, either early morning, or if you want to get out late in the evening and then get it when it's rising, depending on the area that you fish, you should give yourself a great opportunity to catch a very nice or very quality fish in some of these areas. It lends itself for that to take place. But if you're going to fish in those nighttime conditions, just make sure you got plenty of lighting on you, or your boat is lit up at nighttime. So just from a safety standpoint, you always make sure that you keep that into consideration when you're going to fish in the evening times off your boat. But again, just make sure that you're paying attention to what your tides are doing. Make sure you're paying attention to these weather patterns and what's going on with that. And just work these areas, be patient with it, and you'll find and locate you some pretty nice fish. Been back up in here in Mission Bay area. We've had, again, our fluctuating tides have been pretty good to us. We've had enough water that we've pushed back in some of these. So you get up here in Mission Bay and you're working down the right-hand side. You've got shell that's here on this edge. You got a little bit deeper water. Again, this whole shoreline from about here back toward Mission River. If you're going to wade that, man, just be careful because it's like super mushy in some of this area, and it can be difficult to wade. So that's some of these areas. If you get the right kind of wind to help push you down that, you get you a east or southeast wind that'll help push you down and just drift it. You can. We like to get on the back shoreline there around the Mission River and fish that mouth, fish that shoreline, get across the river, get on the other shoreline as you hit into Mission Lake. That area back in there has all been fairly good. Of course, the Mission Lake area is pretty soft, but it's very manageable. You can do it. Just take your time and work those areas. Like I said, we've been working shoreline, the grass line edges, and especially when you had the right amount of water in there, it's been pretty consistent. Not super great all the time. The last few times we've been in there, it's been pretty consistent. We've caught some decent fish that's been out of it, but it's just another location for you to expand your fishing area, just knowledgeable-wise, just to get back in there and fish it. I love fishing the shorelines on the back that fish in both the Mission River and the Mission Lake. Those are great opportunities down those edges like that. Those fish like that structure. When you got the right amount of bait or bait working in those areas and you got the right wind that's pushing you so you can work it properly, you give yourself an opportunity to catch some quality fish in there. Most of them have been all in the lower slot, whether it be redfish or trout, and that's primarily what we've caught. I think maybe scratched out a black drum ever so often in there, but not primarily. It's just your trout and reds, the things that we've caught from these areas back here. And all the shoreline that's on this west side, it heads all the way back up to the mouth. All that's been okay. You just have to be patient with that in some of these areas like this. Like I said, we've had some pretty docile winds for the most part, so it's really been a decent ride across Copano Bay, because if you've been in those rough conditions, it can get a little tough on you. So when you get back in here, it's really good when you get the right conditions to work these areas like that and work the mouths, work the cuts. You can locate you some decent fish. Again, Soft Dine XL. We've kind of flopped back and forth with the smaller profile to the bigger profile just to kind of see if we can get something consistent working. Color-wise, we've just throwing just basic color, nothing just wild or anything like that. Pretty much mullet flavor with the silver body and black back on it. Maybe a little bit of sparkle and something special if you want to throw your corkies, the sinkers, the floaters, or the originals, which is ones I like to throw with the original size, because you can work it a lot of different ways. Top water style, you can let it suspend, you can let it sink. So it's just a really versatile bait. Work in those areas with that and just kind of go to town with it if you want. Just stick with it, the main thing. Sometimes people get a little impatient. And that's the thing about this time of year is don't let yourself get impatient with it. Just kind of know that you're going to put some time in on a particular shoreline. As long as you have the things that you need, align yourself with a major or minor that may be coming up, or if you've got an incoming or outgoing tide, or if you got the right amount of wind that's going to help you. So all those factors factor into your fishing day and your fishing area. So, and of course, always the number one thing is make sure you've got bait working in the area. If you don't have the food source, you're not going to have an opportunity. Unless you just get lucky and catch one, but more than times than not, that's not going to be the case. Again, our down south in the original, in the burner size shad has been good for us. Knock and tail in both the 4-inch and the 3 1/4 inch. Then, of course, in that it's been our regular suspects in that, and in the Rogue, heavy metal, greenback have been the three major players. We sprinkled in watermelon red in there. Has been pretty good for us as well. Of course, the Bone Diamond and White Ice in those flavors in both of those particular products, in both the Down South and the Knock and Tail, have all been very productive for us. Twisted Tea, Big Papa, all those have been in there. So make sure you have a different color choice, size choice. Again, we're fixing to be into the big moon phase here in the next couple of days, so that will change if you continue to try to throw those bigger baits. Your production may not be as much as what you would like, so make sure you start out something small, and if fish dictate to you to go bigger, then so be it, but at least give yourself an opportunity early on into your fishing day.